Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa to order for October 28th, 2024. Welcome to members of council, staff, and our special guests in the audience this evening. We'll begin the meeting this evening with the reading of the land acknowledgement, and this evening it will be Councillor Adam Driscoll. Oh, it's not late.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omawinini people. We would like to thank the Omawinini people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibility in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 call to action. Call to action 29. Call upon the parties, and in particular the federal government, to work collaboratively with plaintiffs not included in the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement to have disputed legal issues determined expeditiously on the agreed set of facts. Recent progress the Government of Canada has committed to resolving Indigenous childhood claims litigation outside of the courts in a fair, compassionate, and respectful manner. For example, the creation of 60 Student Healing Foundation in 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in any of these evening's matters? Seeing none, we'll get right to our special presentations. It's always very exciting as council to bring in members of our community and honor them for achievement in the various fields. And this evening, we're going to honor Early Childhood Educator and Child Caregiver Appreciation Day. So on Thursday, October 24th, it was the official day of recognition. And we're very excited and honored to have two members of our community here and to honor them for all the work they've been doing for the past many, many years in the field of education here in our community. So this day highlights the commitment, competence, and hard work of ECEs and child caregivers in our community. And as I said, we're honored to have two individuals here to honor this evening. So I'd like to ask Christine Sharp and Natalie Cole if they would please come and take the seats at the table there. So it's great to have both of you here. And I'd just like to give everybody a little bit of background on these two individuals in terms of their careers in education. So I'll start with Christine Chard on the left. Christine has worked in both childcare and school settings for over 27 years in both Ontario and Manitoba. She had a licensed home daycare in Manitoba when her children were very young. And since moving to the area, she has been working with the Renfrew County Catholic District School Board since 2008, first as an EA, and then in 2014 as an ECE to the present day. She enjoys working and supporting children in their journey and learning, and enjoys seeing how happy they are when they have accomplished important milestones. And if you didn't know, Christine is originally from Chapel, Quebec, and she went to Algonquin College right here in the area in Pembroke to earn her ECE certificate. And Natalie Cole. Natalie has been a registered ECE for over 30 years, and her work in this role has brought forth many opportunities and accomplishments throughout her career, including being the recipient of a provincial commendation from the province of Alberta for her work in ECE. Natalie has worked in all aspects of daycare settings, including as a director in Alberta before joining the Renfrew County District School Board in 2015. She began her career here at Ballard JK-12 School and has since moved to Herman Street Public School in 2017, where she is currently employed. Natalie is dedicated and passionate about her work with our youngest learners. She is a well-respected and beloved staff member at Herman Street. Her energy and enthusiasm is admired by all, whether it's coming to school with pink, blue, or green hair. What have we got today? A little bit of purple? And dressing up in fun or colorful outfits to engage her students. The staff always looks forward to seeing what Madame Cote will be up to each day. And an interesting note, Natalie always knew she was going to pursue a career involving children since she was 6 years old, and she would sit all her dolls out in front of the chalkboard and teach them lessons. And yes, they did all get stars on their lessons and paper. So that there's a common theme here with both of these individuals, Christine and Natalie. And the common theme is a love of learning, calmness, easygoing, enthusiasm for the job, and a very, very high level of patience, which is essential when working with young kids. So on behalf of council and the entire community of Petawawa, we want to congratulate you as our 2 recipients for 2024 for the Early Childhood Educator and Child Caregiver Appreciation Day. We want to honor both of you here today, so congratulations. Now, if we could get you to just come up around into the middle here, we'll make a little presentation. Cote or Cole?
Oh,
I said
you
Cote.
said, I heard Cole at first.
Cole.
but- Oh, I was Cole.
Maybe.
I heard Cole, and I was like, oh, okay, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
You got the two, because I knew there were a few people over to Jeff.
Yeah. Okay, on behalf of town council and the entire community of Petawawa, we'd like to present Christine Shart and Natalie Cote with a certificate of achievement and also a nice little gift certificate in there for your work over all these years with the young children here in Petawawa. So regardless of where you were working with them in schools and daycares, you've been nominated by the leadership of both of your institutions. And these awards are much deserving for all that you've done for the kids over all these years. So congratulations.
Very much. So much.
All good?
Thank you so much.
We won't tell you the same. It'll be a surprise to you.
Yes, they are. I'm so glad we're friends, but thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. Just so we can take some pictures over my flag. Okay, we're back. Let's carry on with economic development. With the monthly report for September 2024, Christine Mitchell.
It might be.
Technology, ever my challenge. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. So my monthly report for September 24, noting that we had hosted 2 grand openings, one for Ottawa Valley Balcony and the second for Taco Bell. We also entertained meetings and circulated a business registry for a new and upcoming business in the town of Petawawa called Odyssey Shuttles. In communications with that particular business, the efforts are ongoing. September was a busy month in preparation for the Petawawa Ramble, so there was a lot of marketing and engagement around the various activities and events that comprise of the Ramble weekend. Additionally, the Taste of the Valley, which we hosted in collaboration with the Renfrew County on September 28th, and I'm pleased to report that there was over 35,000 people in attendance, 3,500 people in attendance, sorry, at that particular event, making it a very successful engagement. Over 6 of the vendor businesses between the food and the farmers market did sell out of their products while they were in attendance here. And then that was followed by the Ottawa Valley Business Excellence Awards Gala that evening. Another long day, but a great day of celebration and success, recognizing businesses. The other activities that we participated in the month of September included presenting the price exchange to our exchange partner, North Grenville, and then also presenting it on September 23rd to members of council at the regular council and community meeting. Staff also attended the Ontario East Municipal Conference, and we continue our branding effort, moving the process along for future engagement with council. The last thing before I close out my report is to remind council that we do have an upcoming Veteran Vendor Business Expo on November the 9th that we're hosting in the upstairs hall of the Civic Center, and it will take place from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that concludes my report for the month of September, and I will happily answer any questions if those come.
Questions for Christine on the report? Councilor Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor. Service, not a question, but just rather a comment. It's a very busy month for your department, and congratulations on a couple of outstanding events. The Taste of the Valley was really a spectacular event. I was supposed to ramble.
Deputy Mayor Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just ditto what James said about the Ramble and the Taste of the Valley. But I did just have a question under your programs, projects, and events, holiday outdoor tailgate market, change of date and communications with partners. Do you have a date that you're able to share for my planning purposes to attend, please?
Yes, for sure. It is happening on December the 7th, in the evening of December 7th between 4 and 9 p.m. as part of the Santa Claus Parade and the traditional tree lighting of our Marion Light.
Thank you, Christine, and to all residents in the town of Petawawa. Very busy places. There's a lot happening. It's a lot of fun, so make sure you're there. Thanks.
Councilor Driscoll.
Hey, Mr. Mayor. I will just echo the compliments. We'll pile them on because after watching you at the Taste of the Valley and Ramble, I know it is extremely hard organizing, especially with that many people coming through at such large areas. So congratulations to you.
Further questions or comments? Councilor Kudu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one last comment. I want to congratulate on a very successful container market season. This was the first weekend that container market was closed, and I hardly knew what to do with myself. And I was just actually wondering how many of the vendors are coming back around next year.
So I haven't opened up the season opportunities for 2025, but in discussions with a number of the vendors, they are very excited to come back. You certainly will see a lot of vendors come back for this year.
Any other questions or comments? So I'll also congratulate you and Rudy and everybody that was involved with the ramble. It was a fantastic event. The weather sure helped, but it is a lot of work to organize those, and the Taste of the Valley as well. 3,500 people coming to Petawawa. It's too bad we didn't know how many of those visitors came from outside of town. But anytime you were there, it seemed like there was 800 people wandering around the venue. So it was great to see that many people here in Petawawa. Just one question about the FICE exchange. How did the presentation go with North Grenville? Was it well received?
Yeah, it was no surprise to them, some of the things that we earmarked, and following the presentation at Councillor Donovan's request, I did send you a copy of the report that we did for them, the virtual presentation. So it was a nice collaboration, certainly worth the time and the effort, and we couldn't have done it without our PFAN members and our community volunteers who went and did the collaboration and then reported back with their findings. So I look forward to seeing some budgetary items over the next 5 years in relation to some of those key points that were addressed in our place, that we can improve the visitor experience here in our community.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Economic Development Monthly Report for September be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, next we have ED-14-2024 Kittyland Park Design Concept. Christine, you're up again.
Thank you. So this report is essentially for council information and as part of consideration for upcoming budgetary discussion. Certainly council is aware that some projects have been in play and underway within the Economic Development Department in collaboration with Public Works and Community Services for some time. Dating back to 2019, we did present a box boutique retail development report, from which we showed council at the time that shipping containers were used in a variety of applications for temporary business use. From that opportunity, council did give the economic development team the go ahead to explore a pilot container market guideline program, which we did, and then also a concept for a pilot container market at the Northern Benton site. Those reports respectively in January and February of 2020 were received by council. The efforts to proceed with that particular development were halted due to the world pandemic. And in 2021, we came up to council with the pilot container market at Kenhat, the experience which Councilor Fitchie just referenced, which has been in operation now for 4 years. So we have a working concept. We know the concept is as a proof of work. And so what we are looking at is the opportunity to expand or return to the original concept, which was a business incubation space, and back to the original location. Council did endorse the creation of the comfort station at the Northern Benton site as part of the legacy project for the town's 25th anniversary, as noted in a report in 2021. And we did successfully open the completed comfort station, which was built over a 2-year period in August of 2024. Further to that, a presentation was made to council by the Petawawa Business Advisory Network in November of 2023 with regards to a Petawawa letter sign project. This being a sign that would be an identifier and a tourism node within our community. One of the proposed sites was the Northern Benton location as part of a reimagination for this entire state. Budgetary dollars were put aside in the 2024 budget for the letter sign project, but no location was finalized as to the establishment of that. Understanding that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was going ahead in 2024, we were waiting the results of that engagement in order to be able to present options and ideas for location sites and for financing. In August of 2024, midway through the project, we did do an addendum to the service contract with Think Design to give them this particular opportunity to look at all the elements available for the Norman Binkie site and also take into consideration the community work that they had been doing as part of the recreation master plan in terms of what the community was saying was needed and wanted. So this concept that is being projected is the concept that Think Design provided to us. A small team of myself and community services and PAO Scott. We participated in some revisionary comments to the design team, and this is the final design that was landed on. As you can see, it incorporates a number of potential elements for recreation and economic viability within the town. Council already owns this piece of property and the 8 acres. And staff have already been working on the in and out concept associated with the design here at Norman Binkie. It's a project that we have already designed and will be part of consideration for 2025 budgeting. Certainly the redevelopment of this site creates a second community hub within our growing community, and it meets the economic and tourism growth strategic priorities. While we have some preliminary costings of each of the elements within this design concept, we don't expect the entire development to be realized as is or at one time. We do expect a phasing approach to the development, if that's the real case.
Thank you, Christine. Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Christine, you know how I feel about this project. Something I was in favor of right from the get-go. I think it's a real opportunity here to have a second hub. The container market is growing now to be a real attraction along that trail with the comfort station. I think it's going to be a real enhancement to our community, residents, visitors. So you know where I am on that. Is there a plan of the big picture, maybe a revitalization of the Norman Binkie building itself too, to improve something there too?
So in the initial phases, there is use of that Norman Binkie property for the immediate future, as my understanding, but I do believe we do have a longer term vision under the Parks and Programming engagement portfolio that we'll see realized in the latter part of 5 years.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, because there's some opportunities there as well. Thank you. Thank you, CAO as well.
Councillor Driscoll.
Here's Mayor. I will start off. I was a little apprehensive in this project at first, because I had discussions with you about. But it has grown on me after seeing the welcome center and see how the container market is. I think it would be a nice draw, and a total revitalization of that area would be very nice. I have said before about the black baseball diamond, but I hear there might be some planning in the works. So as long as we will not be losing a baseball diamond for each town of Petawawa and it'll be somewhere else, should have my support. So I think it'll be a great project.
Deputy Mayor Sacker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Christine, and the entire team for working on this. This certainly was a vision of the previous council and completely endorsed. And I see it as equally important for our business community as for our tourism. So, Algonquin Trail is right there, and it just has a really important element that will also complement the center that's there already, and really put us on the map as far as a place to follow in terms of how we develop along the Algonquin Trail. So I'm supportive of the in and out. I think that's really important. Christine and I had a quick little conversation just prior to this portion of our meeting, and we sort of talked about it really being to service that area when you start going down Norman Street and up John Street and all that. That's just an extremely complex area, and so I really do see it as being the primary use for this development. So I'm definitely in support of that as well. So thank you.
Councillor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks Christine and team for all the effort that has gone into this design so far. I like what I see. I'm certainly in support of it. And I'll echo everything that was said around the table here. I won't repeat it all. I especially like the flexible lawn space. I'm sure there's some thoughts being given as to what could happen there. Maybe touchy ball tournaments or something. Who knows? Anyway, looking forward to seeing this one develop.
Councillor Kadu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Christine and team. I think this is beyond my wildest dreams. When we were discussing the space before, I'm gonna say I really love, as James said, the lawn space, but also the skate park. Because I know when the prototype project was up, the temporary skate park, it was really well used and appreciated, and people wondered where it went or where it might pop up again. So it's nice to know that we have a space put aside, knowing, of course, this will roll out over time. And I certainly love how this plan allows for us to develop the space as budget allows over the years. But phenomenal plan, definitely support it. Thank you.
Ditto from Councillor Dunn. Okay, not to repeat everything that everybody else said, but I'm a huge proponent of this plan. And I'll just pick on some things that haven't been mentioned. We do have a lack of retail space here in the town, and we have a lot of businesses trying to come into town and having problems finding spaces to sell their wares. So I think this is a great opportunity to fill that need for some of, especially our smaller boutique type businesses who maybe can't afford to rent, 1,000, 2,000 square feet, but can fill a niche that we have here in the town, maybe in terms of things like children's clothing and other, retail items that can't be found here in the town right now. So I think that's an incredible opportunity and really build excitement here in the town. Just the fact that this container market will be there and provide all these retail opportunities, not just for the residents of Petawawa, but also anybody coming along the trail, whether by ATV or bicycle or walking. What a great place to be able to just pull off the trail and hopefully have some food, refreshments, and do a little shopping at the same time. I can see people making a trip just to our town to go and see an amenity like this. Love the train concept in the playground. I think it's, we have a comfort station that looks like a train station. So I like that theme being transferred over to the playground itself. We know that our splash pad at the Civic Center is heavily used, especially by classes near the end of the school year. So this is, I'm sure Herman Street, once they hear about this, will be very excited. And will be like a secondary playground splash pad right in their backyard. So what a great addition to the community as well. I guess the question I have is, do we have it broken down into phases that we'd like to see implemented and rough estimates of costing for each of the phases?
So we do have some preliminary costing analysis. We are working currently on a phasing program for it. The first foray was to officially bring it forward to council for their review and holistic acceptance of pursuing the concept further. And we will bring forward, because all of these items will be capital budget dollar items or for consideration in that vein, we will present it in a phasing approach.
I guess all I can say is I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation on phase one. And hopefully it comes soon. I think this is the type of project that once it's introduced to the residents of the town of Petawawa, that will build immense excitement. So it'll be great to get going on phase one for the 2025 budgetary year. Any further questions or comments? Now, do we need to pass a motion to accept this as information? No? Okay. So thanks again to you and all of your team and to Think Design. I think it's an amazing concept, and it'd be great to see this come to fruition.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Next, we have Planning and Development Monthly Report for October 2024. Melanie. You have something as exciting as the container market for it?
We'll see how excited you are. So monthly reports, you will notice that I've changed the format of the monthly reports for the second time in the last few months. Just really trying to play around with how to capture, in particular, the planning applications we have ongoing, the types of planning approvals that are required, and just beginning to find a way to gather some metrics. So how many applications do we get in a year? How many do we approve of different types of applications? So the chart that I included in this monthly report is a first attempt at including this in a monthly report. We have a lot more fields behind the scenes that we're using to track progress of these files. But with 3 planners now, we need some way to know who's working on what stage it's at. And if somebody's away, there's some tracker to go in and see where something left off. So that's kind of the genesis behind moving to a table format and using kind of a day-to-day tool to roll up for the department for a little bit of efficiency there. Speaking further about Appendix A, the green items you'll see month to month are things that are complete, and then they will drop off of the report the following month, but we do keep them behind in our tracker to see applications that we processed that complete. And then at the bottom of the kind of orange columns, it gives you a running number of how many files of each type we have in play ahead of time. So if you add up all those numbers, you know, there's over 30 files that we have in some kind of focus state right now. And the totals show you that there's a lot of zoning amendments and severances currently that we're working through. And then I've incorporated the building report in as Appendix B. Just a couple highlights on that. I ran some numbers comparing where we are at this year with last year. So the number of permits is up almost 9%. The actual value of the building permits to date is up 4% over last year. However, the building permit fees are down about 18%. So just some interesting numbers to see that permits are up and the value of the building permits is up, but the building permit fees is down. So it's just the type of application that we're getting. In the main part of the report, I just highlighted some engagements that we've been involved with in since the last meeting, September, October. And I will point out that we will have a report for you next committee at the end of November on the provincial policy statement impact in town. We just attended last week some professional development events talking about the changes to the Planning Act, and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is rolling in some online training, but it hasn't happened yet. So we just want to have that training before we finalize the report too. And happy to take any questions on the planning report project.
Okay, just before I open it up, can I just say that the active planning application table is outstanding. I think it's fantastic for us to have a chart that shows us everything that you're working on. Sometimes we were always, I don't want to say in the dark, but always wondering what was going on here, what was going on over here. We knew stuff was going on, but it's great to have it in the table and we can just open it up and see everything that you and your team are engaged in. I know there was some trepidation when we talked about bringing on 2 additional senior planners, but just having that table in front of us and seeing the volume of files that are open makes us feel good that, you know, we've got enough staff here to take care of everything that's going on in the town of Petawawa and not delaying developers or anybody else just because of the lack of manpower. So it's great to see all of the things that your department are engaged in. Okay, any questions, comments on the report? Councilor Driscoll.
2 questions, maybe more just for information. So the one meeting that you attended the webinar for regarding status of energy procurement process in Ontario, in future electricity demand. What is that one about? They kind of just give you an overview of what we have planned in the future for province does?
Yeah, so these engagements are put on regularly. Basically, the genesis of it is with electrification, and the demand for energy on the grid. The IESO is the agency that's responsible for figuring out how to get energy to the grid. And so they've been formulating projections and then strategy plans about how to meet demand. And to do that, they have several like long-term, medium-term, short-term procurement opportunities for energy generators and distributors to respond to. And they have all the municipalities are invited to these engagements as well, because the expectation on us is to be ready if a generator or distributor wants to do something. So I participate in all of the webinars that I can, just to stay abreast of where they are and what the requirements for the performance to these RFPs are, because they will require municipal support if there is one in our municipality. And they just actually released a new forecast, and the demand is even higher than they thought a year ago. So they have to get quite aggressive with attracting generators and distributors.
Okay, thank you. And then the second one, so on the, on your, at the bottom, Wayne lands, creation of new residential lots. There's some in the comments that says the Ranch Road ownership issue is resolved. Would that be like where you turn to gravel on Ranch Road, or where, or from Ranch Road, would that be that you have an ownership issue, that you own that whole road, correct?
This is an interesting file, because Mr. Lance applied for some severances, and then it turned out that there's just one section of Ranch Road, and it is where Rance and Murphy, I believe, meet. There's one section of road that remains in private ownership that was never conveyed over to the. So because it is privately owned, he doesn't have public road frontage. So this is an order in the court basically to deem that section a road and then convey.
Okay, so would we take over ownership, or we would just assume responsibility for it?
We already maintain it and look after it, and we already consider it a municipal road. This is just a legal ending.
Perfect, thank you.
Further questions, comments? I guess the question I have is, now that we've had the appendix A and B, which is the planning and the building report all in one, we just do one resolution now instead of, we used to separate them as one. Now it's just one. Okay. So if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Savern, seconded by Councillor Roots, that the Planning and Development Monthly Report for October be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have PL-27-2024, amendment to site development agreement, Petawawa Animal Hospital, 1000671-679 Ontario Limited, part of lot 22, concession 5, being part 1 on plan 49R-20323. Melanie.
All right, this report is for information. There'll be a bylaw coming for you next week at council meeting. Basically, back in the spring, council approved the sale of land in the industrial park to Dr. Scantlin for a new veterinary clinic. That sale was finalized in early July. Part of the sale of land in the industrial park is to the proponent to show site plan control how they're going to use the property. So that was completed in parallel with the land sale and also finalized and registered in early July. Once Dr. Scantlin officially owned the property, then she finished detailed design on her vet clinic. And then a couple changes came out in detailed design as outlined in the report. Basically, a loading bay was added, which necessitated a slight shift of the location of the septic system. The footprint of the building increased slightly, so it shifted some things like the building entrance, parking spaces, and how the building connects to the water main. And some parking spaces had to be removed with this shift of the building. Overall, though, the changes remain in compliance with zoning and do not change the intent of how the lot is to be developed. The open space buffer is not impacted at all. A revised site plan and applicable revised grading plan have been completed. The actual name text of the site zoning agreement, however, doesn't change. It's just that the text references these scheduled site plans. So that is why we have to do a revised development agreement. In the package, I included a red line version showing the changes from the original to the new site plan. And next week, a new bylaw will be before you to repeal the previous bylaw authorizing the previous agreement. To authorize this new agreement, which is literally the same textual agreement with just references to the new site. I just wanted to provide all that information to you tonight. When you see the bylaw next week, you have the background.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Just one question in terms of timeline. So once this comes before us next week and if it is approved, where do we see the timeline in terms of a building permit being issued and construction starting?
They will be able to apply for a building permit whenever they're ready. I know the first step is tree clearing and I really want to.
And just one other question. I know that the parking lot is a gravel surface and there are accessible parking spots. So obviously you can't paint on the gravel surface. Does that make the requirements different in terms of how those accessible spots are demarcated?
There will be a sign that shows which spot is the accessible shown on the site plan. There is a special provision in the development agreement too that the accessible spots make sure that they are traversable with any mobility aid.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Sandberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to go back to the gravel surface, I believe that it was going to be that sort of compacted, sort of not quite asphalt, but very compacted in the accessible spots, or am I confusing that with something else?
No, item 12 in the development agreement says the gravel surface of the parking lot must be compacted according to geotechnical best practices to ensure that the surface is safer and easier to navigate for people who may require the use of mobility devices. A note will be included on the construction drawings noting that all granular base materials are to be compacted to 98% standard Proctor Max dry density in maximum 200 millimeter thick lifts. I'm not sure what all that means. Chris might be able to fill this in, but I know that provision was specifically to make sure that the accessible spots were actually going to be usable for people with wheelchairs or any kind of other.
Thanks, Melanie, because yeah, we did spend a bit of time discussing that in the group, so I don't know what all that means either. But I trust that it will mean that it's not going to be challenging for them at all. So thank you.
Further questions or comments on the report? Okay, so if you're comfortable, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody. The council accepts this report and enters into a revised development agreement with the owner. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have PL-28-2024 zoning bylaw amendment application Z186, JP2G Consultants Incorporated, agent for 2833868 Ontario Incorporated, part of Lot 18, Concession 7, 374 Murphy Road. Melanie again.
Okay, again, this report is for information purposes only. We are going to have a public meeting for the zoning amendment on November 18th. So the zoning amendment arises out of 3 severances that were applied for on Murphy Road, and I believe you've seen these before. 2 of them are 1 acre new residential lots for new builds. One is a 5 acre severance to sever the existing dwelling from the rest of the property. in doing these severances, we always rezone severed residential lots from rural to residential 1. So that's what part of the zoning amendment is about. The other part of it is for the retained lands from the severance, the owners plan to build a new dwelling, a new horse barn. However, they wish to build the horse barn before the dwelling. So there's a number of exceptions to the zoning bylaw that we have to make to allow that to happen, because normally the main use has to be built before you start building accessory structures. And an added nuance to that is that the horse barn is going to have an additional residential unit above it. So again, there's a few exceptions to the zoning bylaw required for that. So kind of the details are outlined in the report. The lands are designated residential exception 1. They're intended to be developed by residential plan subdivision in the future. The official plan does allow these severances, provided they don't preclude the future development of the land by plan subdivision on full services, and a concept plan is required to show how that can happen. And the applicant did provide a concept plan showing how the severed residential lots and the new dwelling could be incorporated into a new plan of subdivision. What they have also agreed to is that the new horse barn, the new septic system that will service it, and the additional residential unit above the barn will be demolished when the lands are ready to be developed by subdivision. So those things are also captured in the development agreement related to the severance. So there's a lot going on with these files. Like I say, it's capturing the new residential uses, making sure we can still develop by plan of subdivision in the future, but allowing the owner to have some interim use of it while we wait for servicing to get that far in the town. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Melanie. Questions on the report? Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to preamble this by saying thank you for saying there's a lot going on, because I'm not entirely sure I'm understanding it, hence my question. With respect to the horse barn and the residence on top, is that on the piece of land that already has the dwelling? Is I guess my first question.
If you look at the diagram in figure 2 in your report,
That's the one with the yellow?
down below that,
Down below that, okay.
it shows the 3 severed lots.
Aha,
So lot 3 is severing the existing dwelling. It's labeled, but it's fairly faint. The new horse barn is going to be to the left, or the west of the other outbuildings shown on the retained lands. And then the new dwelling will be kind of where it's labeled retained lands, around there somewhere.
okay, so it's not a dwelling currently, it's on. So the current, so where it says lot 3 is where the house is presently. Okay, and then the retained lands is a separate parcel. So what they're asking is to build a horse barn and build a secondary dwelling prior to their first dwelling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So therein lies my initial concern. You have to have a first dwelling in order to have a secondary dwelling. However, and do we not have a policy that stipulates that? And so, sorry, I'll let you answer.
Yes, we do, and that's why a development agreement is required on those lands to actually show us where the new dwelling is going to be located in relation to this new barn, but also to require the primary dwelling to be built within 2 years of the signing of the agreement. So putting some time frame to actually getting started on that main case.
Okay, thank you, Melanie, for that clarification, and I will not support that. I did not support it for another issue that we had with where a resident came forward, asked to build their secondary dwelling first and then build their primary dwelling. We said absolutely no, based on the current policy and out of a perspective of fairness. I wouldn't be able to support that. You have to have a first dwelling in order to have a secondary dwelling. Thank you, Melanie, but thank you for your work on this.
Further questions? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe at the county, it was just approved, to have access to Murphy Road from the two separate lots.
Yes, yes, the county granted access, or the condition of severance was a road agreement with the county. I should add that the new barn, that is proposed on the retained, there is a building permit issued for that, minus the additional residential unit. So we had no grounds to withhold a building permit for a horse barn, but it is only for the barn, and there's to be nothing done for the additional residential unit on that permit.
And just for clarity, as part of this overarching agreement, a plan of the proposed subdivision was part of this agreement. The barn being on one of the lots of the proposed new subdivision, and that barn would then have to be removed once permission was given for the new subdivision.
Correct, the barn and the septic system that supports the barn would have to be removed.
Yeah, and the primary dwelling, if it were to be approved, would be already placed on one of the lots of the new subdivision and would remain.
Correct.
Councillor Kerman.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Certainly, building a horse barn and installing a septic and then removing it would be a pretty costly venture. What are the timelines associated with this? Like, assuming that there was a subdivision that went ahead here, what are our municipal projections, if you will, as to when we might be growing out into that 94 acres?
So the servicing of this 94 acres, or at least this part that we're talking about, is very challenging. So the timelines are out there. The north half of the property, north of the wetland, it is more easily serviced, and there's actually a severance that we have just received to actually sever north of the wetland from this property in anticipation of a plan of subdivision. So an extension of the Portage Landing subdivision. So that northern part, north of the wetland, is more it is a kind of next development, but this southern portion is challenging from a servicing perspective.
Thank you.
So I guess with that in mind, the long-term goal or plan for this area is to build out from the Portage Landing first from the north side and eventually extend it to the Murphy Road.
Yeah, so the north part of this property would be an extension of Portage Landing, and this southern part will be as development proceeds down Murphy Road, or at least that's what it looks like today.
So hearing that, the services that are going to extend off of the Portage Landing would not then just be extended further to get to the north, closer to Murphy Road?
I'm not entirely sure, but there's a significant wetland separating those parts of this property. So trying to get servicing through the wetland.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Driscoll.
So for their 2 years, if they do not need to build a dwelling in 2 years, what course of action do we take after that?
So having the 2-year time frame in the development agreement, if they do not fulfill their end of the agreement, we are able to basically use the court system to force compliance or force them to remove the barn and area.
Correct. I will say I'd be for it. I know in the past it hasn't been done, but moving forward, we're allowing area use above garages, accessory buildings. So if they're gonna build it with their 2-year timeline to have a full-time residential dwelling there, it doesn't really affect me. I think it's fine as long as they're under contract to build residential dwelling.
Just to follow that line of questioning, so in terms of the 2-year timeline, they would have 2 years to have the dwelling complete and occupied?
I don't have the development agreement in front of me, but there's specific language, and I can't remember if it's foundation approval or occupancy, but there is, detail around that in the proposed development agreement.
Okay, thanks. Anything further on this one? Okay, we're just receiving that for information. There's gonna be a public meeting on November 18th on this spot. Thanks, Melanie. Next, we have PL-29-2024, lifting part lot control block 60 and 61, plan 49M-50, Samantha Crescent. Melanie.
So first thing, Samantha Crescent should say Sandstone Crescent. And this report is for information only. Tonight, there'll be a bylaw before you next week at council meeting. We did have a request to lift part lot control on these 2 blocks. There are rows of 5 townhouses on each of these blocks. Ownership of the blocks changed earlier this summer. And so the new owners are just asking to lift part lot control to keep their options open with their new investment. I understand that this is required to help them with their financing. They have no plan to displace the current tenants because this is rental stock that's badly needed in the town, and they are fully rented right now. So they have no plans to displace the current tenants and sell off the units. They're just, like I say, for financing reasons, keeping their options open. So this is similar to what we did with all the townhouse blocks on Samantha Crescent. Is just by lifting part lot control, they are able to separate each of the units into their own conveyable parcel. Happy to answer your question.
Questions on the report on Sandstone? Nothing? If everybody's comfortable, I need a motion to request or to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Driscoll. That council enacts a part lot control exemption bylaw for blocks 60 and 61 on plan 49M-50 to expire 2 years from the date of its passing. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have PL-30-2024, proposed temporary use bylaw Z185 Hoskins, 255 Murphy Road, part of lot 20, concession 6, part 1 on 49R-12748 and part 1 on 49R-16552. Melanie, you're busy this evening.
So another report for information purposes only. I just wanted to get this to you before the community open house on November 13th. So Mr. Hoskins has applied for temporary use bylaw. Temporary use bylaws are permitted under the Planning Act. They're not commonly used, and I am aware that there isn't one in play in the town right now. So they are a unique tool in the Planning Act that are very similar to a zoning bylaw, but instead of it being a permanent change, it's only for a period of up to 3 years. So it is a tool that allows you to try something and see how it goes. And then if it's not working out, it expires and the use is no longer permitted and the current bylaw prevails. That's how it's different from a regular zoning amendment, which is a permanent change. So in this case, Mr. Hoskin lives at 255 Murphy Road. He is very passionate about urban agriculture, lives on a 5-acre parcel, and would like to use the temporary use bylaw vehicle to experiment with growing crops, raising livestock, and a roadside farm stand. He has submitted a planning justification report which describes his proposal in more detail, which I included in the report. We have met with Mr. Hoskins a few times. His location is right next to the Radke Estates subdivision, both phase 1 that's developed and phase 2 that's developing behind his property. So Radke Estates subdivision is on 2 sides of his property. Fronts Murphy Road, and then the Woodlawn Crescent subdivision is right across the road. Like I say, we've met with Mr. Hoskins several times and had a lot of healthy discussion, but jointly decided that it was time to kind of put this idea out to the community and see how they feel about it, and also give council an opportunity to ask him questions and get more information about it. So we have not prepared a draft temporary bylaw. We really want to see what the community and council thinks of it, to inform the shape of the bylaw that we will bring to you at a future date. So the open house is on the 13th of November. You all received the notice for that. But like I say, I just wanted you to have more detail before that.
Questions on the report? Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Not a question, but just a comment on the report in general. I like the way it's rolling out. I've heard from a couple of people in that 300-meter zone, or the people who were issued notices about the open house and what's going on. And the people I've spoken to seem generally supportive of it. And it'll be interesting to see the open house and what transpires there, and how many people actually come and express support or concerns or whatever. So it's I like the way it's rolling out.
Deputy Mayor Sanford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look forward to seeing what the feedback is, and I'm going to attend the open house. But urban agriculture really important for our future and our well-being, and urban is the key term here. And I hope we get lots of good feedback to make a really well done, informed decision, and hopefully we can look at proceeding with something.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So we'll receive that for information purposes, and I guess on November 13th, we'll get a taste of what the surrounding area feels about urban agriculture in our community. Thanks, Melanie, for all your work this week. Okay, next we have the Public Works monthly report for September 2024. Chris, you've been waiting patiently in the back there. Good.
Thank you. Save the best for last. Maybe not. Thank you, Mayor Service, members of council. It's always nice to be here. All right, let's work through the monthly report. As far as projects go, the Public Works Office expansion is proceeding really well. I think it's going well. Electrical and plumbing is almost complete. Insulation is near completion. Roofing, the tin work on the roof is nearly complete. And today they were starting with door installs. So I think the push right now is to get the building closed in and get some heat in there so that they can continue working as the cold weather sets in. The stonework should also be done this week while we still have a bit more warm weather. So there is a bit of a push now with the cold weather coming, but still happy with the progress. And again, had a lot of good feedback from people who have visited and gone through the new building, as well as staff. I'm hearing a lot of positives, so that sure takes the strain off when you're worried about how a building is going to be received. So it's really positive to hear. And as far as the comfort station, there was one item remaining, which was to install the signal switch that was donated to the town. This goes back to Mayor Sweet. I found that in our prior, and we kept it at Public Works. So the electrical has been run for that, and the sonotube has been installed. So should see that installed, I hope, this week. It's going to have a push button right beside the doors of the washrooms at the rear of the comfort station. There will be a push button where you can hit the button and the lights will flash for a certain amount of time. I'm not sure exactly what the time frame is, but not too long. So it'll be really nice to have that in place and to add to the history of the comfort station along the railroad. So it should look really good. But aside from that, that project is winding down for this year. Wolf Avenue in Portage. It's been a long wait for the PXO on Wolf. The ESA has approved the street light, which is great. So we're just waiting for Hydro to flip the switch on that. There was discussions internally about opening the PXO without the street light, but I wasn't keen on that idea. The street light's important for nighttime use, and I didn't feel it would be safe to open it without that proper illumination. So I know it's been a long wait, but I think that was important to just hang on until we have all the implements in place for that before we open PXO, but it should be very soon. That project though is complete. We did do the deficiency walkthrough, and there was some items with regards to the sod installation that need to be touched up, but aside from that, the project went really well. And then as far as Portage Road, the line painting is completed, so that project has also reached substantial completion. Murphy Road is still going, moving along really well, pushing hard. Obviously, the cold weather is becoming a factor, but I think we're making good headway. So we're still hoping to be on pace for completion for mid-November. As far as fleet procurement, the town hall EV has arrived. It's at Public Works right now. The charger here at Town Hall will be installed this week, and the car is going for detailing this week as well to put the town logo on and some really nice detailing that will be a little connection to our past. So it's going to be a new look. I hope it's received well, and it's going to look pretty sharp here at Town Hall. As far as the grit tank, I know I brought it up before, but we were unsuccessful with tendering that project, so it will be a carryover. And then I have the budget planning list for 2025. Seems to be getting longer, so I'll have to shorten the list a little bit, I think. But it's always good to keep a lot of ideas rolling along as we get ready to go into budget time. And then moving into the Public Works update. September 5th, we had the Association of Ontario Road Supers local truck rodeo, safety truck rodeo, which was held at the Renfrew County Patrol Yard this year. All of our staff here in Petawawa took part in it, and really happy to see that Rob Gallant placed 5th out of 35 drivers. So we're getting closer. I know one of these years there's going to be someone from Petawawa going to the provincials. So it's on my hit list. So I'm really proud of the guys. Though Brady DeRoche came in 12th. So good showing again by the town staff. It's a great day for the operators, and safety training is important. I think we have great operators here in Petawawa that do such a good job in the winter. So when they can get together with their peers and test their skills against each other, it's a big win. It's good to see that happening. And then Civic Properties, we included an update there. As you know, Ted Markout is the new manager of Civic Properties and started on September 23rd. It's been really good working with Ted since he started. I think he's going to bring a real good new atmosphere to that department. I'm happy to be working with him. Trevor, our asset management, energy management coordinator, provided a nice update for the Blue Box transition. He's working along with Don Rakowski on that file, and it's going very well. We're working in conjunction with our municipal partners at Laurentian Valley and the city of Pembroke on that file. And then as far as water and sanitary, nothing out of the ordinary for September. That's it for the monthly reports. Happy to take questions.
Questions on the report? 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Chris. Chris, just with respect to your 2025 budget planning, this is extraordinarily minor, but I noticed the last item is a PXO install on Perman Street, which I think is an excellent idea. When we look at PXO installs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the flashing timer down feature is a next level as from the basic. If I'm not misunderstanding, can we just make sure that I think those are very helpful. They're helpful to me as a driver to know if I've got, you know, like how much time I have to wait, particularly because we're getting to be a busier town. And I think it's really helpful, particularly for those folks who don't run across roads or who need to know how much time they have to get safely across. So, like I said, it's very minor, but if we could make sure that, if we could look at making sure that that is one of the features, I would appreciate it anyways. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can update on that. So unfortunately, PXO does not incorporate some of the AODA features that an actual traffic, like a signalized traffic intersection, incorporate. So typically PXOs don't have countdown alarms as of yet. They just have the flashing, like when you hit the button, it's just the flashing LED lights. There's no countdown on those.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there an ability to time the flashing lights? Because the flashing lights would indicate that you cannot, that the crosser has the right of way. You know, could we make sure that that timing is sufficient to allow folks with mobility challenges to get safely across the road?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe they're designed with a set amount of time in them, but I will look into that, Deputy Mayor Sabrin, and get back to you on that. That's a good question to ensure that there's an adequate amount of time for safe crossing. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that same line, Chris, we were chatting when the recent PXOs went in with regards to, we talked about possibly installing, sound indications so that somebody would be able to cross. I know we had that conversation, with regards to it. It's not the standard kind of the PXO. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity when we're looking at these new ones, if we might be able to exceed standard, make sure that they're useful for all of our.
It's something we can look into, but again, I would caution going outside, provincial standards or standards with regards to the Highway Traffic Act, or because what you're doing is you're exposing yourself to increased liability if you're going above and beyond the standards. The PXOs are designed with the tactile surfaces for visually impaired to cross, and is something we can look into, but I would caution putting in our own devices and exposing the town to the liability. What if those devices don't work because you've gone outside above and beyond what the standards are for PXOs? So we can look into it, but I would be cautious on that.
Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated.
Other questions or comments on the report? Just a question about, I see you're taking a look into the hydro trail from Laurentian to Renfrew Street. And I know if that portion of the trail is developed, that we need a way to get anybody using that portion of the trail from the corner of Renfrew to the boulevard, which would require a paved sidewalk on the Ultramar side of the road. Is that part of the study or discussion, that additional sidewalk getting anybody using that hydro trail to the Petawawa boulevard?
I'll have to get back to you on that one, Mayor Service. That trail is being spearheaded through Colin Coyle's department, I believe, in conjunction with Ted Marcotte, and Public Works would assist with that. But I'd have to get that information with regards to that portion of it.
Thanks. And in terms of the Public Works expansion, is there a hope to get the parking lot paved before the snow flies this year? Or is that a spring project?
Yes, that will be moved to the spring. We did have discussions about it. It was getting late season for the proper concrete curing, and as well the asphalt. As soon as you get into frost, it's not really a great time to pave. So we will move that to the spring. So there'll be a change order for that portion of the work.
Okay, and I love the the train signal at the comfort station. I think that's great. I love the addition of being able to press the button and see the lights flash. I'm just, for the sake of the nearby residents, I hope the bell doesn't ring too. It's just the lights that flash.
I believe, yes, Peter LaPointe informed me on that. So we looked at both initially, but unfortunately we couldn't get the bell to work. So it's just the lights, but maybe that's a good
Maybe
thing.
that's a good thing, yeah. And I hate to throw this question at you, and you can say you have no idea, and that's okay. I noticed the Blue Box transition update is on there, and that we're scheduled for March 28th, 2025. Do we know what that's gonna look like here in the town of Petawawa in March of 2025?
I think it's gonna go fine. There's still a few items we have to get through. There's gonna be an adjustment period for sure. There's gonna be a lot of public education involved with the changes to the Blue Box. But we're also working on a new collection contract. And I think everything will come together quite seamlessly. Trevor's been working hard on it. I'm getting really positive feedback from the city of Pembroke and Laurentian Valley on the whole process. And I'm not really hearing too many, big concerns of how it's going to roll out, or if there's going to be too many problems with it. Trevor will certainly be back to council to provide another update probably in the new year, early in the new year, just as we move closer to that transition date.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? And I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that the Public Works monthly report for September be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have PW-25-2024 all-way stop conditions at Chad Street, Zachary Street, William Thomas Drive, and Canadian Forces Drive, Town Center Boulevard. Chris.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we get caught up with capital works and all of our construction projects, it's given us a chance to, as a staff, to look back on some items that kind of been, I won't say left, but they're housekeeping items that there's been some staff turnover, and these items have come up in the past, and now we're knocking them off. So it's really good to get caught up on these. So the report you have before you is also a housekeeping item. And we're looking for council to approve all-way stop condition at the intersection of Chad Street, Zachary Street, William Thomas Drive, and the same for the all-way stop condition at the intersection of Canadian Forces Drive, Town Center Boulevard. And a bylaw will be brought forward at a subsequent council meeting. And the background on this: so in 2021, Public Works staff installed one additional stop sign at the intersection of Chad Street, Zachary Street, William Thomas, before the town had assumed all the road segments in Laurentian Highlands. In 2021, the intersection was a three-way stop, which caused some confusion for drivers along with unsafe crossing conditions for pedestrians. So we met back in 2021 and discussed this three-way stop, and needed to make a decision on whether we were maintaining a three-way stop or moving it to a four-way stop condition. And our internal discussions found that the four-way stop condition was the preferred solution based on traffic flows, number of residential homes in the area, basically looking at what the traffic pressures would be once the entire build out of the subdivision is complete. And the four-way stop was the right decision, I believe, and it is in place now. So on roadways under the jurisdiction of a municipality, a municipal bylaw is required before the stop sign becomes enforceable. As I said, this is a housekeeping item that needs to be completed to ensure proper enforcement and reduce municipal liability. So the four-way stop is in place right now. The subdivision is essentially built up. The roads have all received top lip paving, so it's time to get a bylaw in place for that four-way stop condition. The only item remaining is we still have to put the all-way tabs up. They've been ordered and they'll be installed shortly. And then the same treatment for the Canadian Forces Drive Town Center Boulevard intersection. There currently is a three-way stop at that intersection, and it hasn't been bylawed yet. There's also one extra leg to that intersection that hasn't been developed yet. And when it is developed, another stop sign would be put in. But by having the bylaw already in place for an all-way stop condition, we're covered to have that extra stop sign when the time comes. So for the financial implication, there really is none. It's just to add the all-way tabs, and those are funded through our O&M budgets. And as an attachment, you see the letter from JP2G Consultants explaining the process of how we arrived at this and backing up our decision to pursue a four-way stop at that intersection. Happy to take questions.
Questions on the vote? Deputy Mayor Sandberg.
Just a vote of support for that. I drive those streets all the time, going from Doran Road and onto the boulevard, and four-way stops are absolutely a necessity. It's not, I don't believe it's safe to do otherwise, so thanks.
Further questions or comments? What about you didn't think about putting a roundabout in? You don't have to answer.
No, you don't.
I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Ritz, seconded by Councillor Driscoll. The council approves the all-way stop condition at the intersection of Chetna Street, Zachary Street, William Thomas Drive, and that council approves the all-way stop condition at the intersection of Canadian Forces Drive, Town Center Boulevard, and that a bylaw be brought forward at the next meeting in council to implement the all-way stop conditions under section 137, paragraph A of the Highway Traffic Act, R.S.O. 1990 C.H.8 as amended. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have PW-27-2024, Petawawa and Laurentian Valley Winter Maintenance Operations Agreement on Boundary Road.
Thank you, Mayor Service. All right, we're looking for council to approve the proposed winter maintenance operations agreement on Boundary Road between the town of Petawawa and the township of Laurentian Valley as presented, and a bylaw would be brought forward to a future meeting of council to enter into said agreement. So again, this is an item that's been talked about. I believe it's come up a few times and in my tenure here with the town since 2019, and there have been previous tries at a formal maintenance agreement. I'd like to thank Manager Public Works Teddy Succo, along with our supervisor Peter Lapointe. They did a really good job with taking on this, following up on this, and getting us to where we actually have the ability to have a formalized agreement. I thought they did a great job working with Mark Beam and Brad Fott at Laurentian Valley. So essentially, we've had an agreement in place, but it's never been formalized, and it works. The maintenance agreement works as it stands. However, there was always a meterage issue. So Laurentian Valley was always maintaining roughly 721 odd lane meters each winter, more than what the town was maintaining. So initially, we tried to adjust the road segments or adjust the plowing, adjust the plow turnarounds in order to even out the meterage. However, that was found to not really work. The plow turnarounds, as they are now, work really good. The boundary roads, the way we maintain them works. The ratepayers in Laurentian Valley and Petawawa are used to the way things have been done because it's been that way for years. So Teddy, our manager of public works, along with Mark Beam from Laurentian Valley, came up with the idea of using an in-kind maintenance to offset the extra financial costs that Laurentian Valley incurs, as detailed below. So the chart in your report shows which boundary roads are maintained by which municipality, along with the meterage. And then, of course, there's the extra cost that Laurentian Valley has been incurring each year, which is about $3,200 for winter maintenance. So what we're proposing is a solution to keep the current boundaries and snowplow turnarounds and offset the added cost to Laurentian Valley with in-kind summer maintenance works. And as I mentioned, it's important to remember these boundaries and snowplow turnarounds have been in existence for decades, although never put into written agreement and adopted through bylaw. So both municipalities would like to formalize this winter maintenance operations agreement on boundary roads through bylaw to protect the liability of both municipalities. The existing boundaries and snowplow turnarounds are the most efficient for both parties to perform winter maintenance, and most importantly, the safest for the operators and the traveling public. Proper signage is in place at these turnarounds, invoking precedent that residents know and they understand where the plow turnarounds are. So keeping the status quo was beneficial for both municipalities. In the chart in your report, it shows the proposed summer works that we proposed, which is line painting on Golf Course Road and roadside brushing on Affery Road. Essentially, the town would take on those summer maintenance programs in order to offset the extra cost that Laurentian Valley has been incurring each year for the winter control portion of the Boundary Road Agreement. So aside from the in-kind summer works, the brushing and the line painting, each municipality will still continue to be responsible for its usual summer maintenance activities such as signage, patching, ditching, etc. on their respective portions of the boundary roads. And of course, capital work projects such as road reconstructions will continue to be shared equally between Petawawa and Laurentian Valley on the boundary sections and will be subject to written agreements at time of tendering and capital projects. As far as financial implication, the proposed boundary road agreement will serve to ensure safety and consistency of winter control operations between our two municipalities, and the addition of the summer maintenance work levels the financial burden shared by both municipalities, and the costs will be handled through our annual transportation maintenance budgets. Happy to answer any questions on this report.
Questions on the report? Everybody's feeling good about that?
Yeah.
I will ask one question.
Sure.
And I'm sure you can say. But if we had extended our plowing responsibilities past the Kluche property towards Heron Drive there.
Yeah.
And I know your reasoning was the turnarounds have been there for 10 years. But was that considered, and why was that dismissed, I guess?
Yes, so that was considered, and you're absolutely right, Mayor Service. It was to go to Heron Drive. We looked at different turnaround options. And from a safety standpoint, the Kluche Farm turnaround was still the optimal spot to turn the plow around. There's really good sight lines there. There were also some concerns, I believe, on the Laurentian Valley side of how they complete their plowing. And if we were to go further, how that would mesh with the time frame for their plowing routes and to maintain a consistent level of service. So it just came back to the same thing we had been kicking around, which was, can we do it another way so that we don't have to change the existing turnarounds, because they work, they're safe, the traveling public is used to them. So that's where we came to this agreement.
Okay, thanks. No other questions or comments? And I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Roos, seconded by Councillor Donovan. The council approves the proposed winter maintenance operations agreement on boundary roads between the town of Petawawa and the township of Laurentian Valley as presented, and that a bylaw be brought forward to a future meeting of council to enter into said agreement. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have PW-28-2024, transfer of budgetary funds to complete tree clearing from proposed new road within the town of Petawawa Industrial Park. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor Service. All right, staff is seeking council approval for the transfer of $50,000 from the industrial reserve to cover the cost of tree removal as a first step in the process of constructing a new road within the industrial park. So Public Works staff and JP2G meet bi-weekly to discuss current projects and to discuss projects that are coming up in 2025. And we were having discussions around a new industrial park road. Through those discussions, we realized that there are restrictions for migratory birds and nesting, which I was not aware of. I didn't know they were actually that long, but essentially from April 1st to August 31st, you're limited to being able to clear trees due to nesting of birds. So when we were discussing that, we realized that if the 2025 budget approved the construction of a new road in the industrial park, that was really going to delay the process of tendering and getting the work done. So we discussed how best to get the work going now while we're not worried about those regulations regarding the nesting, for migratory birds. And, late fall and winter is a good time for tree clearing. So that's when Public Works approached the finance department to see if it was feasible to transfer some money, if there was funds available to get at the work a little earlier. The diagram that you see